Oh, hey, Dom.
Morning. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, no worries.
Great. Made my little stopover before my Wednesday stuff.
So how's it going? How's that movie going?
Good, yeah. Um, I took over the edit myself a couple of weeks ago. Took a few days to get back up to speed on the different edit program that I'm using. And then I had a few sequences that were um, quite, like montages, very tightly edited and quite complicated. So it took a while, slow going, and then suddenly it's all speeded up. So I've got through my first cut, and I'm sort of sending it out to people to get a bit of feedback. But I feel, yeah, I mean, that phrase, I mentioned it to my wife. You mentioned it the other day. You said that, does it say what I want it to say nicely? I've been kind of using that because it's like it stops me, yeah, noticing because obviously when people give you feedback or they say, "Oh, I'm not sure about this or that," it can trigger sort of
Hmm.
emotions, obviously, and where it kind of, that thing. So yeah, I'm just using that as a bit of a kind of benchmark at the moment to keep
Yeah,
it kind of simple.
that's a good one, and it could be very revealing as well. So when you get feedback, you don't need anything, but you could say ask yourself, did they get the message I was trying to portray, or are they telling me about the message they want portrayed?
Yeah, yeah, yes, yeah, and there's certainly bits where, for example, my wife's kind of got one bit that she doesn't think's necessary. I I sort of disagree, or I don't. I think it's nice to have it, and it's just a different viewpoint. Um, but I'm not somebody who I'm quite kind of because I've done a lot over the years. I started when I was very young, and I've been in a lot of different situations with collaboration. I'm quite used to. I don't get offended or kind of like precious too much. You know what
No,
I mean? Um, yeah, something popped into my head. This is a bit more of a sort of meta question. I was listening to I was listening to a chat is a little while ago. Um, anyway, it doesn't matter. It's probably a month ago. One of your recorded sessions that I wasn't on, and someone was talking about memory and you know future and past. Um, and yeah, I was because we had this conversation last week about the calendar and about I don't know if you remember, but it was like about having curiosity towards whether or not I got a kind of should for the activities of the day. And something really shifted. I mean, it was quite surprising. And there's this kind of weight that sort of fell away. And it's been a really interesting week as a result. Um, and I also sort of had this sort of sense, sort of more sort of embodied sense of there not being a future or of it being like that, that this this is it, this is happening. I can imagine a future, or I can stay here in a way, and the future will still happen, or whatever you want to call it. You know what I mean? It's hard to talk about
yeah,
it. Um, which is kind of a nice, relaxed place to be. Um,
absolutely. Yeah.
but I was just curious, like more from a kind of intellectual point of view, that obviously the past only exists in the present, right? So yeah, I see photos, and you were talking to this guy about memory, and and obviously there's kind of physical, what we call physical or apparent appearances that seem to refer to a past. Let's say it's all happening in the present, but whereas we don't have that for the future, right? It's like the future you know, is imaginary too, but it's imaginary in quite a really different way. I'm just curious about that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the interesting thing is that the the imaginary scenarios that we create from the past seem to have a legitimacy because we say that we're remembering what actually happened, even though we know it's actually a recreation or it's a version of it, but it is a creation. But it gives it a sense of legitimacy, whereas the future has less of, well, it doesn't have any of that legitimacy, but they're both equally fantasy. And if the imaginary future fantasy somehow relates to the past, we create this kind of flow from the past to the present to the future, that gives it some kind of a fantasy, a legitimacy as well. But when you recognize that both past and future are in fact both imaginary as in your current experiencing, that takes away all that legitimacy. And so consequently,
Yes,
99% of your thoughts are about future or past.
yeah,
And even if it's about the present, we can go, well, that should have been different, or we want it to be different, or we want the future to be different. So based on the present, I want to do better in future, etc. So it's impossible to get away from those things unless we realize the fact that they're all fantasy. And it's not to say that they don't have some bearing on how we feel, but they certainly don't have the legitimacy that we give them to determine how to feel.
and and the sort of the difference between what we label future and what we label past, and obviously there is a very different quality to those two categories of imagining, let's
Not
say.
not necessarily, it depends on how we relate to that. So if we say that the past determines the future, we can have a relationship with the future that's as equally as solid as the one we have with the past. So I mean, when you say, "Oh, yeah, the future's pure fantasy," sure, yeah, that can take away the idea that we have any legitimate relationship with it. But if we believe that it's going to be a certain way, that doesn't that becomes the same as the past thing. That belief. I mean, a lot of people are very, very sure about how the near future, especially, is going to turn out for them. How they're going to feel, for example. They can be really adamant about that. And they'll say, well, because I always have, therefore I will. Doesn't make any
But there,
logical sense.
but there's still a difference between um, what I did, let's say, what I did yesterday afternoon, which appears to be fixed, and what I will do this afternoon, which appears to be unknown. And I know that what happened yesterday afternoon is only being experienced now and is only images and its interpretation. At the same time, it seems to have a kind of fixed quality that
Yeah.
my idea of this afternoon doesn't have, you know.
Well, if you say you know that this afternoon you're going to do this and that and something else. You're going to
Got an idea.
have
Yeah.
yeah. That gives it a fixed kind of feeling about it, doesn't it? Even though you have to acknowledge that it might work out differently. But when you say, well, this afternoon I'm going to go home from work, there's no question about
Mm.
that. That's so that's pretty fixed.
Yeah. It seems to be fixed in a different way though, to me.
It is different. Yeah, yeah, sure. Yeah,
Um and I don't know if there's an explanation for that or if it's just like, well, that is um it's obviously time. I don't want to sort of like get into a huge thing about time because it's not,
yeah,
it just mangles the brain a bit, you
yeah.
know. But I do kind of see that there's only the present and that other things are fantasy, and yet it's the time's arrow thing, isn't it? I suppose.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
So because you've had this experience with that, your relationship to both of those is different to what it used to be.
it is, yeah.
Mm. And when you said what you just said a second ago, it made me think you could re-examine this present. It's not on a timeline either. It's
Mm,
what's happening right now, and what's happening right now is an interpretation. And so
yeah,
you could come at it from several different perspectives and describe it differently. Right? So when do we recognize that our description becomes the application of meaning,
yes,
and it's no longer literal, is it? It becomes as much fantasy as thoughts about future and past when we say what it means.
mm, mm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Trying to get hold of it like that.
Mm,
Yeah. Uh, I mean, I really like that. I've been sort of, there's a couple of things. One, like before I came onto chatting with you, whenever that was, a couple of months ago or something, that I was doing the first feta with the Pod and Panilla stuff, and this idea of sort of striving was very strong. Somehow that popped up as like very, very evident, and that chimed with what we talked about last week. And yeah, so that seems to be yeah, yeah, just showing itself, I suppose. And somehow I seem to be able to sort of let that go a bit and kind of just sort of swim in the present a bit more rather than sort of try and fix anything or try and get away from it. It just seems to be a bit easier.
right. Would you go as far as to say that the idea of where you are on a spectrum, how progressed you are, or whatever, has ceased to be important?
It's definitely dropped down a lot in importance. Yeah, it doesn't. It's sort of. I know it's corny because I've heard it before, and when I just popped in my head now, it sounds like an old cliche idea, but that there's more a sense of dropping into this rather than going along this way. It's sort of dropping into what this, um, and it's not. It doesn't seem to be taking effort, or not. It seems it's not. It's a pleasant thing, even if something unpleasant is happening, it sort of
Yep.
seems a bit easier. I mean, one of the things, the striving thing I was just talking about in the chat we had last week, they were also kind of reinforced by what you said a little while ago. We've heard you say a few times, is this idea that you're perceiving the past, and that's something I've known obviously before. I've thought about that before. Like when I see that sign over there, by the time the lights got to my eyes and my brain's registered it, it's history. It's like when you see the stars, they're
Yeah.
millions of years in the past, and that the idea of doing anything about changing something that's already happened is sort of hilarious, you know. And although that in itself isn't necessarily enough to sort of, but combined with these other things, it seems to be really helping, you know.
They all kind of have threads going into each other, like what you're just
Mm.
talking about then really could probably fit into Feta 4 stuff. And what we've been talking
Okay,
about with time probably belongs in Feta 8 stuff.
okay, right,
There's no you can't kind of say, well, we've got to get rid of one before we get to two, before we get to three kind of thing. They all intertwine. They all have threads
right, yeah,
in each other. And they're all, in fact, got to do with identity. They're all got to do with whether there is that actual I running the show. And so there's
there's a sort of like, because I did a lot of work. I did a few years ago. I did the sort of LU, started on the LU thing, and I did the first letters years ago, and then I did the first one again recently. But I don't seem to be. If you said, "Oh, do you know that there's no self," or you know, I am not really kind of thinking about that. It's not sort of. It's I don't even know if I think there's a self or not. It's not
mm,
like I'm sort of struggling with that or battling with that.
yeah, good,
Um,
good. That's
I
good.
wouldn't
Yeah,
say that I've definitely seen through it or something because I just haven't.
yeah,
It's not big in my mind at the moment.
good. Yeah, I find it's a crazy one actually. Yeah, but you will at some point when the idea pops into your head, is there one? You'll go, not yes or no, you'll go, it's really obvious that dot dot dot. That's what will happen
Right.
for you. Yeah.
Mm, mm,
That was my experience. And I rather so I guess a lot of what I say is shaped by my experience. So and even though I did guide at LU, I didn't push the no I business. It could just make sense
right.
to me to say, just because you can't find it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It's like if you can't find your car keys, do you think they don't exist? Or is it just that you can't find them? So it could be the same with an eye. So we've really got to come at this from a different angle as I see it. But that way works for a lot of people. So when there's a recognition that there's no I, that's all of the things that rest on that as a foundation, they all fall away too. But there's remnants of all of that stuff that keep coming back until they don't. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Mm,
yeah. No, I like the way you're going at it. I like what's happening for you. I really think that's good stuff. Yeah.
thank you.
No, we don't need to be thank me. It's not a compliment. It's just
No, 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 I wasn't. I just meant thank you for your time.
yeah, you're welcome. Mm. It's not my time. I don't own it. I'm playing with you now. Yeah. It's like people say a waste of time or the cost of time. Yeah. It's kind of rather ludicrous. Yeah. Yeah. The thing with all of this stuff that I mean, there's many different gifts I could give somebody if I could, and just to recognize that this is it is one of those gifts. Just to whatever turns up, whether you like it or not, it's irrelevant. Whether it's comfortable or uncomfortable or pleasant or unpleasant, it's totally irrelevant. If something turns up for you, It's not something that's turned up. It's your experience. So if you're having an experience of any kind that you can imagine, it is just what it is. And if we don't fight it, things change or
Mm.
not. But that'd be the biggest gift you could give somebody, that instant acceptance of whatever turns up without saying it means something. That's what people do, of course. They apply meaning to things and then they respond to the meaning and then they feel shitty about that. So they respond to feeling shitty and off they go in a spiral. Yeah. So how do we get to that absolute acceptance? Well, for me, it was very definitely realizing that it's impossible to change what's already happened. That just gave me instant acceptance. It was so easy after that. How can I? It's like saying it's daylight, but I want it to be something other than daylight. Well, that's total craziness, isn't it? And so what's already happened has already happened. That's a fait accompli.
There's a line in the 12 step stuff when they're talking about the higher power thing, and they talk about people's fear of being the hole in the donut. You know, it's like letting go and going, well, it's already happened. It's potentially scary, I guess, because it's the idea that just completely letting go and sort of letting things happen by themselves, as it were. That things won't happen, or you know what I mean. That's the
Yeah,
sort of
yeah. But it's the same level of craziness when you see that, even though you think you've got control, even though you think you're making things happen, that's not the way it actually works. That's just added to. That's like the subtitles in the movie. Only the subtitles are really about a different movie to what's actually going on. Yeah. But yeah, it is. It is. I get that it's scary. I get that, people have a need to feel like they're running the show. But it's not like, and I keep saying this, but it doesn't get through to a lot of people. It's it's not like you were running the show and all of a sudden you're not going to be running the show. It's that you never were. It was always just an illusion. It was always just a story we told ourselves. Mm. But knowing that, and then letting the nervous system catch up to respond to that delay can be quite a big one for a lot of people. They can know it, but still react as if they don't know it. And what does that mean? that's 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 when they get off in the beginning of the spiral. Must mean I've failed. Must mean I've regressed. Must mean I don't really know it. All bullshit, but it's still
mm,
common. Yeah. You can take any point. That one about now. You can almost go, well, now is as illusory as the past and the present. I'm still going to tell myself a story to nail down now.
mm,
Right? Can I nail what is actual? No, I can only become aware of it afterwards. So I don't even know what it is to be able to nail it down. I can't actually nail it down. So it's like I live with that millisecond delay. It's like what the TV stations do so they can bleep swear words or whatever. But we've got our own version of that going. Yeah. So what can I nail down? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. What can I know? Nothing. What do I believe? I don't know. I can make up stories about this behavior showing me a belief, but it's just a story. Is there anything other than stories to react to? I think not. Stories all the way down into oblivion. Stories that we don't even know about that we're responding to. Stories that have been hardwired in there. So does that leave us living in a lucid dream? No, it's kind of a version, but in a lucid dream, we have control, don't we? I can fly in a lucid dream if I want to. And so I can imagine that I've got control. But it is kind of a dreamlike existence if we look at it from that perspective. And we don't know what's going to happen in the dream, just like we don't know what's going to happen in this dream. And a lot of people would freak out at the idea of that, but only because they imagine that that means things are going to go badly in some way. But if you can relax enough to watch it happen, it just happens. And the whole idea of well or not, good or bad, doesn't even come into it. And I don't know about certain things. I, I was I was having a session with somebody this morning, and the subject of money came up. And we were talking about me having a paywall on Substack and or not having a paywall on Substack and so on. And as we were talking, a notification come up saying $9.95 from Stripe is on its way to me. Just it was the serendipity was amazing. It was like he mentioned the word money and that notification turned up on my computer. Uh, like, wow, you couldn't do it on purpose if you tried, and yet there it was. Just happened like that. Amazing. Yeah. So life is full of that stuff when you're open to it.
Mhm.
And it might or might not happen. We have no control over it. We don't know why. Maybe there really is such things as coincidence and it just happened. Or maybe there's some connection we don't know about. I don't know. No idea. But it's fun watching them when they do occur. But I don't hang out waiting for it to occur because that would probably stop it from happening. I don't know. See, I don't know. No idea. Yeah. Yeah. It's a great adventure.
Mhm.
Yeah. So you're on your way to work now, are you?
I do some training with some guys
All right.
on a Wednesday morning. Yeah, it's been doing it for a long time, but this guys never go for breakfast. So it's old. I've been doing 25 years. I've been training with these lads in the boxing gym.
All right. Yeah.
So, so, yeah, I'll head off. I'll pass on. But yeah, thank you.
Oh, thank you, Dom. Thank you. It's always good talking to you.
Yeah.
What's alive for you, Jack?
Um, I don't know. That stirred up quite a lot, and you kept going. Um, yeah, I'm not sure. Are you sick?
Me, no?
No, I was just noticing your voice sounded different, but it's hard to tell. I don't think it's my
Probably.
computer, but it
I,
could be.
I I forgot to put my shocks,
Oh yeah,
so it's the different audio straight out of the computer. Is probably what sounds different. Yeah.
yeah, that makes sense. Um, so I wrote this list of like the dozens of different things I, of course, wanted to bring up. And I think what eventually became interesting was the fact that I had this list uh, at all, and that every single one of them is like this massive thing that I want resolved now, now, now. Like love is on here, identity, I is on. It's like it's kind of like these, I don't know, these big picture questions that, of course, I can't just like wish away or resolve in
Yeah.
a
No,
night.
that's fine. Yeah. Well, and I'm not asking you to do this as a for any purpose other than to maybe have you consider from a different perspective. But could you see a common foundation for some of those?
Mm.
I mean, you have to look behind them.
Yeah, there's a thought that they all have a something I'm circling around, which sounds strange because I control love on here, so it's like how am I circling anything? Um, just like a feeling or like I got a little flash of what felt like a darkness.
So if you think about or no, if you relate to that flash of darkness, can you see that that's where the juice is for you?
Yeah.
So did you also recognize what triggered that flash for you?
I'm
We
not
don't
so sure.
don't need details, just maybe what angle you were looking at it from. What was the perspective?
It was I was looking at this list and I was like, these all seem so big, but they also seem the length of it kind of made me feel like it was a little surface level. Um, And it was almost like a recognition of it. Like I was looking at it, I was like, oh, that's strange. Why does it feel like that?
Can I get you to send me that list?
Yeah, yeah. Like right now or
Oh,
an email.
whenever. And yeah, I
Yeah,
just had the thought maybe I could see a commonality in it. That's all.
yeah.
I mean, if
I
you
guess,
it can be overwhelming, can't it? When you've got a long list like that and you think, wow, there's so much there. But maybe
yeah.
if you cut the legs out from under one of them, a whole lot of them will fall over.
Yep. So, do you want to talk about neck pain
Yeah,
or not?
yeah, yeah.
Um,
I like neck pain, pain in the neck. Yeah.
yep. Yeah. It's been a
Would we go
recurring one.
would we describe that pain as stiff-necked?
No, it's much more of like a throbbing, uh, like I think of it like a nerve that's firing or like a fire sometimes, not a fire, but like an electric jolt or
Yeah, yeah, which certainly suggests there's a nerve involved, eh?
yeah. And you know what's funny is my dad has had chronic neck pain for years. I don't know why that makes me smile. It's just I think there's a link there.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, very likely. Yeah.
yeah. He never
And
figured it out. They give
has
him
he
like
had the same kind of pain as you've got now?
I don't know the specifics of it. I know that they give him like steroid shots now. Sometimes he takes like big patches, drug patches on it. Um, my perspective is that it seems to be delaying and numbing as opposed to fixing,
Mm,
just because it keeps happening.
yep, yep. It could well be something like arthritis or whatever. The steroid would suggest that there's inflammation there,
Yeah.
which is part of the pain of it all. Yeah.
Yeah. But so the weird thing is like it sometimes it'll act up around no, it like acts up in weird situations. Not weird, just like lots of different ways, lots of different situations. It always hurts. Often it'll stick around kind of in the background for a while.
Are you talking about him or you now?
Me.
Yep, yep.
Yeah. Um,
So this is quite familiar for you.
I would say so. Yeah. It definitely varies though. Um, and sometimes I get different looks at it. Like last night, there was maybe the feeling of like some of the charge had come out of it a little bit. I'm hesitant to buy that fully.
Yeah, but play with it. So of course, the expression of this is going to happen via words, right? But those words are telling as well. So when you say some of the charge had come out of it, that's a great description of feeling, isn't it? It's feeling like it got a little bit more. mm, don't know the right word. Relaxed is not quite right, but if the charge is out, there's not the tension. There's not
Yeah.
the likelihood of explosion reduces.
Yep.
So can you
I've
associate how that came about? That charge came out of it?
um I have my story. I'm curious what you think is I've sometimes Pernilla once said that like if you have a really tight neck, it can be related to like fear of punishment or um so I was tying it to maybe it could be that was
Mhm.
I let go of some of that or I wonder if it's related to my success or failure stuff. I don't really have a good reason.
Yep, yep. So just play with these things, and if it resonates for you, that tells you something. If it doesn't, that tells you something. Yeah. A story I would have about neck issues is about not wanting to let go of a view of something, a way of thinking, an opinion that you're hanging on to tightly.
Mm,
No, it might
yeah,
not be relevant, you know.
I
So
can.
if that pain reduces your flexibility,
Oh, and that's another thing is often when I kind of relax or my body will want to start like rolling it, like very just on its own.
yeah,
It's like
yeah,
that's the first thing all the time. It's just it'll start like lolling my head over and over and over
yeah.
again.
Right. So when you relax, you become a lot more flexible.
Sure. Yeah,
And
like it
and
can
and
very
look at
much
this.
move.
Look at this. I just saw you do that. Look at this. Oh, a much bigger perspective.
What perspective am I holding on to? You can challenge it if it's there. So that I know something. I don't know.
It might not be that you're holding on to something that you know. It might be that you don't want to see something that you don't know.
I don't want to see something that I don't know.
Yeah.
Walk me through that. I'm not sure I understand that one.
Well, it's kind of a weird one, isn't it? A bit of an oxymoron because you think if I don't know, how could I want to not see it?
Yeah,
But you can say, well, there's a hint of something there that maybe I don't want to fully see it or see it clearly. Maybe, just play with those things. Nobody's saying anything definite.
yep. I guess one question I maybe wanted to ask is how does the desire aversion stuff really work? Like, there's a lot of sayings about if you want something and you strive for it, you keep pushing it out of distance. But that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense for me. Like, this is a stupid example, but if I want my phone, I can just grab it and then suddenly I have it.
Mm.
The implication is that for like happiness, that doesn't work.
Yeah.
But like, why? Because I maybe even believe that it doesn't work.
Yeah. So happiness is a great example. Like you can say, I want happiness, I'm going to have to strive for it. But the implication is that I've got unhappiness and that striving for happiness is going to push away the unhappiness. And what you resist persists.
Sure, how's that work?
Well, because you
If I
give it
resist it,
strength,
why can't I fight it off?
you give it energy by pushing against it. So the stronger you push, it's an
That
old,
seems like a story to me. Like, if
yeah,
why
yeah.
can't I just fight it off if I fight it? Why?
Well, because you don't have control to be able to do that. Yeah. there's an old hypnotist trick, a stage hypnotist trick, that they use. They put somebody against a wall, and in a hypnotic state, they tell them that both hands on the wall is holding the wall up, and whatever they do, don't take their hands off, or the wall will fall on them. Right? So you can imagine the situation, can't you? There's somebody standing up there pushing against the wall with the fear that if they take that push away, the wall will fall on them. And the harder they push, the harder the wall pushes back. It's not actually pushing back, but it feels like it is.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Sure.
nothing simple and straightforward because it's got to be to do with the way you see things and the way everybody sees things. So if you're going to strive for happiness, you're swimming in unhappiness. Why would you want happiness otherwise?
Fair. Okay.
Now, with your phone, that's a great example because you don't want your phone. There is the impulse to pick your phone up and then you'll pick it up. And you can describe that afterwards as I wanted to pick my phone up. But that's not what actually happened. What actually happened was that the impulse to pick it up formed for some reason. Maybe because it was ringing, maybe because there was the idea to look at it, maybe it was you wanted to look at it to avoid something else. Maybe you were interested in seeing what the time was for some other reason. But whatever it was, there was an impulse to pick it up. And picking it up happened. And then the story come along that said, I could have chosen not to do that. But you couldn't because you
Yep.
acted on with what was there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. That makes sense.
You can see that's really related to a physical thing and the way your brain works. Whereas the happiness thing is philosophical almost. It's not, it's psychological, but we're operating in a at a level of ideas, aren't we? And
Yeah.
and what we have are feelings that validate those ideas or unvalidate them, invalidate them. Mm.
Yep. Yep. I hear that. Um, I think what did resonate is that when you're seeking happiness, it's because you're swimming in unhappiness and don't like being reminded of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And perfectly reasonable that you want something that feels good, eh?
Yeah. Or
Mm.
don't like when Vince brings up your unhappiness. Is that also reasonable? I hope so. Don't know. That's what I feel.
But it's not your unhappiness. You see it as your unhappiness. I get that.
Okay.
But I also see that what you're describing as unhappiness are experiences that are not pleasant, that are actually unpleasant. And the more detail we get into, the closer we look at that, the less the word happiness resonates and the more literal descriptions rise to the surface. See, so you can't have unhappiness without having a story about what that means or how it came about or what could fix it.
I don't know why, but the saying that it wasn't mine opened things up. Although everything I've learned to believe that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but
Mm.
uh,
Well, there's two ways of looking at that too, and you could look at it in a more literal way, and that is that of course it's not yours, it's not even you. It is a pattern of experience that's been learned.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. I think what the core of what you're saying, I hope, is just that it's not personal, is what it feels like.
Absolutely, yeah. It's not, and that is huge. That is really big when you can see that things happen for objective reasons. All of a sudden, the relationship to them changes. Whether they're yours, whether they're shitty or not, you've got to look after them. You've got to nurture them. You've got to keep them.
You know
You've got
what's funny is you took it as objective, impersonal, objective. I was more thinking of like I don't have to create it's not so me, it's not so me, mine, I feels deep. Uh, I don't know, or splitting hairs.
no, no, go with it. Don't undo it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's no getting away from the fact that something is experienced,
Yeah.
but we're adding a theoretical layer to it when we say it's me, it's mine. I have a reason for it. I did it. However we describe it at that level is our attachment to it. Whereas when we see that it is just there, it's not personal, it's not as a result of some worth or some meaning that we apply to a theoretical character called Jack. He's a good person, he's not a good person, he deserves it, he doesn't. They're all just theoretical stories.
Yeah.
Right? But when you get down to there is this experience, there's no denying that, even though we can split hairs about how to describe it, but we're not going to get into the storytelling about what it means. That's just philosophical bullshit.
Yep.
And that is where things spiral off because as soon as you go, that means something, you then respond to that with another feeling that you then give that meaning to, and away you go. You're off and running. Whereas when it's just happening, it's just there. It's kind of a dead end in a way. There's no spiraling off. It is just what it is.
I can find infinite ways to spiral off.
Yeah, we get good at it, don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even I can't say what you're saying is resonating, but at some level it seems to be somehow. I don't think I tell myself stories of worth or good enough. Or success or failure. More like, am I really understanding what's happening here? Or do I need to look at it again? Am I deceiving myself in some way? Um, am I doing it right?
Yeah. So if we were to just flip for a moment out of all of that into has has what has been looked at and discussed, etc., had an effect?
Sure.
So what you hear, what you see, whatever senses are involved, when they get stimulated, it's it's experience. And experience changes us at an objective level. Experience changes this being, this body, and everything that's involved in this body, which kind of goes beyond what we can define. But all of that is affected by our experience, and it changes. And so some things will soak in and have a bigger effect, and other things will just bounce off seemingly. But that doesn't mean they have no effect.
Yeah, but I want to have control over the knowing and the
Yeah,
understanding and the insight and
yeah, great.
the
So good.
resonating.
You don't have control over that anyway. You think, oh, I better work hard at this. I better write it down and remind myself or something. Forget it. It'll either happen or not happen.
I was more thinking like in the now, I want to not feel out of knowing and controlling as we speak.
Tell me, you said, I don't want to feel out of dot, 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 right? What do you want to feel? You don't have to be accurate. Just play with it. What would you like to feel?
Just, um, okay, the first thought was just like this.
Yeah,
Uh, I don't
that's
know.
good. I like that. Yeah. I did a story yesterday and posted it. And oh God, I'm so far ahead of myself now. I think it probably won't get published until about the 9th of June. That's how far ahead of myself I am with these stories and songs. But I did this story about what is clarity? What is it when we feel clear? People say, I want to feel clear. And they say, I want to feel clear. And I didn't focus on the I want to part, but I did on feeling clear. What is feeling clear? You know, is there such a thing as clarity? Well, my investigation of it said, no, there's no such thing as clarity. The opposite has some tangibility, but clarity itself doesn't. So, what clarity is the absence of the opposite, the absence of chaos, the absence of confusion, the absence of whatever. So when we are clear about things, it's like that's a residual state. That's what's left after the opposite stuff is gone.
But now we're talking about like a sterile, like,
I would have to disagree about being sterile.
yeah, but you've just, we're, we're now absent of
Yeah,
confusion.
I get where you
Doubt.
come up with that. Yeah, but it's a pretty exciting place to be, actually.
I guess I didn't say boring. Is that what you're?
Yeah, well, I don't know about boredom. No, it's definitely not boring. Yeah,
I more meant you've cleansed some pretty common emotions maybe out of experience by
yeah, yeah. Those emotions that come from stories that
Okay.
are unnecessary, that are not relating to what is actual.
I don't know. I'm holding on to that. I don't know. It's not like I like feeling confusion.
Well, there's another interesting one. So everything exists in relationship to something else. So the idea of if I feel confusion suggests that there's at least a concept, but very likely that that concept has some actual experience behind it of not feeling confusion. If confusion was the normal, you probably feel quite familiar with it and feel quite safe in it.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess there's nothing technically wrong or unsafe about being confused.
It's these stories that we don't really clearly see about expectations that are often a really big part of this. So we often, people who get who live in a state of heightened awareness get hooked on that. It becomes a high, and they think that that's the reason why they achieve stuff. Right? We won't mention names, but we know somebody who's a bit like that. And the idea that if I let go of that, I won't be able to achieve anything, which is not something I've actually experienced in a appropriate way. Maybe they've experienced not feeling that way, but the opposite of that is going on, that they're feeling overwhelmed and numb or or deadened in a way as a way of not feeling that. And maybe that's what they're relating to is what will happen if they're not got that adrenaline high going or whatever. But essentially it's not it's so what'll happen is you saw yourself. We let's say I'll hang on to this, even if you don't, that relaxed mobility that turns up, that flexibility, that wider perspective, that means that there's a relationship to a lot more. The other way is very, very focused, and that focus brings our perspective down to a very narrow perspective.
You know what was interesting is I was doing some of the, this is maybe not related to what you're saying because I kind of got lost, but I was doing some like very concentrated meditation on like sound. Sound was a
Mhm.
big one.
Yep.
And it actually felt good. Like it felt like a, like when I stopped meditating, I was like, oh wait, it feels like my mind is structured in a pleasant way. Um, like less distracted maybe, or
Yep.
I don't know, just riffing.
Hmm. Did you have the experience that you were the sound?
Sorta. No, I don't. It felt like bullshit to me because it was more the understanding of the language of I is the same sort of substance of sound. I can't say that it's much more feels like I hear sound or I put attention in sound, even now or like right now.
Mm.
Or like sound is vibrating off me.
Yeah, I get it.
I
Yeah.
know that sounds like stories, so it just
Yeah, yeah, no, well, that's your experience. Yeah. Well, I would suggest that classical music is particularly good for that kind of meditation to get into because it, especially with the oboe and violin and that stuff that vibrates at a frequency that your body can get attuned to and start vibrating with it. That's something that's particularly good. Whereas if it's intermittent sounds that come and go, it's a bit harder to have that experience. Uh,
I feel that. Yeah, I do sometime. It's a feeling of I can't lock onto the sound. If that Yeah, it's almost as like sound is like coming at me and I'm like scraping off of it and like not
yeah.
which if I'm sound, don't understand that one. Maybe I'm frustrated at sound,
Mm.
frustrated at me.
Well, so here's a possible way into for you, and that is to consider that you recognize that your body is largely made up of water. I mean, that's not strictly true, but that'll do. Right? And so you can imagine the ripples on the water responding to the sound. The sound vibrates. You might have even seen somebody with a violin bow on the edge of a basin, wiping the bow back and forward, and the water starts to get active. The surface of the water will respond to that sound. It starts to vibrate in sync with it.
Yeah.
You just imagine as you're listening to that kind of sound that the water in your body starts to vibrate at that same frequency. It's a way in for it as a possibility.
Yeah.
Great fun to play with it, that kind of stuff. But you will get to this, you will reach a point where you'll recognize that your experience, we're not talking about what is actual. We're not talking about any objective reality. We're just talking about your experience is that your whole being moves with the music, with the sound. Now, we know that you're not the sound, but it will feel like you are.
But
That
you
will
just said that I am the sound.
Yeah, that will be the totality of your experience. You're not the sound. You're not actually the sound, but
Says
your
who? I
experience
could be
will
the
be
sound.
that you are. Yeah.
Uh,
Well, your experience will be that there's no separation, put it that way.
yeah.
Right? So it won't be that there
I
is
liked what you
and there
said
is
about the idea of separation comes from language, but not actual separation,
Hmm.
um, in your story. And I really liked what you said about languages wind chimes. That was a cool concept, I guess, but it was sweets, maybe. I th Thank you, Vince.
Oh,
I'm
come
trying to
on.
scared now.
Thank you, Jack. I really enjoy talking with you. Good stuff. How are you, Leonard?
Quite fine. Actually, there are like several different things going on for me at the moment. The first thing is that, like in February, I went to a birthday party in Berlin and I happened to start to talk to someone. Actually, it was the only other person who was not drinking alcohol, so kind of we found each other.
Yeah, that child?
So no, 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 an adult. And
Uh,
then we started to talk about all different kind of things, and somehow we came to this topic of digital detox and so on. And then I remembered that I had this trip to Indonesia and I wanted to write postcards to people, but there were no postcards available because
oh,
I don't
yeah.
know, maybe yeah, because maybe it's so digitalized over there that nobody does that anymore. And then we kind of enjoyed the conversation and we decided to write letters to each other, which is like something super uncommon. And yeah, in the last 6 weeks or so, we wrote letters to each other. And I must say that I enjoyed that so much. I mean, receiving the letters, I mean, it's like, ah, there is a letter in my post box. And then
Mm.
also that someone sat down in order to write a letter to me by hand. And it's like all very spontaneous. It's not like a text that you edit or something. And also, the letters were like, I felt really touched by the letters. I don't know. And I also enjoyed to write letters myself. It was really like a ritual or something. And it was interesting because the connection was established a bit more by that. And then on Monday, I went to Berlin to visit a friend, and then I met him also. And then, yeah, I don't know how to describe it, but it was like a total crush on each other. But that was not the case in the first meeting. It was like I could not really foresee this. And yeah, it's interesting because I don't have any stories, I don't have any projection about the future or anything. It's rather like a physical sensation or something, but like yeah, I mean we met again yesterday, but today I still feel like my body is kind of flooded by something, I don't know. And I'm really enjoying that. And it's kind of, it doesn't even matter what will come out of that. It's just like super nice to know, ah, okay, it's
Mm.
possible or it's there or I don't know. Yeah, that's like one thing. And yeah, it's also like, I mean, I was asking myself, but weren't I searching for that somehow also without noticing maybe? And yeah, then, mm, but it feels like really that it was kind of a physical need for me to have a connection, like, and this need is satisfied now, and that feels like very nurturing. I don't know. And it's more about the yeah, connection to have someone to I can talk to, and I feel that we are using the same language or something.
Hmm.
Mm, and that there is like hours of talking about everything, and there is no sense of time, or there
Yeah,
is like a lot of inspiration and interaction, and it's just like
yeah.
in
And
a
discover.
flow. I don't
Yeah,
know. And yeah, I mean, I have been living quite an isolated life for quite a while. So,
yeah.
um,
So, so with just this consideration that maybe that means
hmm,
that you were missing it, even though you weren't aware of missing it, or that you need a connection. Maybe that's irrelevant to
hmm,
anything. You know, that
yeah,
you were just it happened and you enjoyed it.
no, it's just like I caught myself thinking I should not seek for anything because I'm not a seeker, you know? So,
Yeah, bit of
like,
identification
it's
there.
also this
Yeah,
concept of what it means to, yeah,
yeah.
be awake or something. And
But you saw immediately, didn't you? I mean, I'm getting that you saw immediately that you were identified with not identifying.
yeah, 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 yeah. And I mean, um, or maybe also this kind of self-image of, I don't know, like an
Yeah.
awake person who doesn't need anybody else. And that's obviously not true. I mean,
Well, wait a minute. It's like, yes, so this idea of need, right? You could
no, I
examine
don't,
that,
yeah.
you could examine that forever, couldn't you? And who
Mm,
knows what would come out of it. But your reality and your experience was
mm,
something happened and you enjoyed it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That
And
doesn't mean that you needed it all along. That's
yeah,
the
I,
story you've made up.
and I mean, I don't even want to compare it, but like the experiences that I had in my past when I felt something that would be labeled as being in love or something like this,
Yeah.
then it would be like kind of accompanied by this fear of not
Losing.
fulfillment, or like losing that again, or like looking
Yeah.
on the phone all the time, like did this person write back to me, like this insecure
Mm.
attachment thing also.
Yeah.
And
But that's different this
yeah,
time, eh?
yes, it's not like that. I'm not
Yeah.
it's like a bit weird for me because it's like
Yeah.
something unknown. I
Yeah. Yeah.
just feel very safe.
And you also get that you've only got the language that you used to use to
Hmm.
talk about it.
Yeah.
And of course that shapes it. That is also all these implicit meanings involved in that old language.
Yeah, and then also in the past, I would have maybe tried to please the other person, and I'm
Mm.
not doing that in any moment. I don't know. It's like it feels that I there's like an interaction, and I'm not thinking about myself within this interaction. It's
Mm.
not like how do I come across or anything, and that used to
Yeah.
be the case
Yeah.
in the past.
That certainly sounds more like love than the old way.
Mm,
Mm.
yeah. That's one thing, and the other thing is, I mean, I usually go to this meditation group. It's this Zazen meditation group, and already for quite a while. And of course, you don't really speak so much to the people, but yeah, sometimes it felt a bit still it felt a bit like socially awkward for me, or a bit stiff. And then last Saturday was like a meditation Saturday, which is like it's not 8 hours of meditation, but it's like together and do meditation and then have something to eat and then, yeah, some other things, other activities. And the Tuesday before, we planned that, and then usually there was like a married couple always coming to this meditation. And that time it was only the woman. And then they asked her, "Is your husband going to come as well?" And then she said, "No, he's not going to come and he's not going to join the meditation anymore because we separated." And that was like the first time that I heard something very personal from somebody within the group. And after the planning, when we were about to leave, I just felt the urge to hug her, and then I just said to her like, "I would like to give you a hug if that's okay for you." And then we hugged, and this was like also very beautiful. And then on Saturday, I felt that the whole situation was totally changed because then it, was for me the first time that everybody opened up and really talked about personal things, and not only this, I don't know, Buddhist stuff like
Mm.
bodhisattvas that I can't really relate to, I must be honest. Um, yeah, and that was a very nice experience. And then another thing is that I noticed that there is something that I fell back into a kind of mechanism with my family members. And that's about like there is between my mom and my sister this mechanism that they don't speak to each other, but they speak to me. And then I noticed that both have like very distorted images of the other one. I mean, I don't say that my image of them is like the correct one, obviously not, but I noticed that yeah, I always get the narrative from my mom about my sister, and then I think I I don't know which person you are talking about, and the same from my sister. But then when I say, yeah, but I have to tell you that I don't see my mom like this, or that I don't, our mom like this, or I don't see my sister like this, then the reaction is like there's an irritation, or then they try to justify their image. And then I noticed, okay, it doesn't work. They won't change that, or I mean, sometimes it works a bit. Um, I can sometimes tell my mom, for example, yeah, now you're telling me that story about my sister over many years. Don't you think that there is also a development in her and that maybe it's not the same situation as before? Yeah, but it's like, to be honest, I'm a bit tired to
Yeah,
do
yeah. And you
that.
know what's making you
And
tired?
yeah,
That part of you that wants to fix it.
yeah. And then I started to not say anything anymore. I
Did you
just
still
let
think it
them,
though?
yeah, that's true. I let them tell the story, and I just shut up. I don't say anything. I just
Yeah,
let them talk until the story is over. But then sometimes they notice that, and then they get pissed off because they
yeah,
think, yeah,
yeah,
or they blame me for not being interested in family stuff or something. And
yeah,
then
yeah.
it's like
Get that,
this
yeah, yeah.
reproach, like, yeah, you only care about yourself and not about our little family that
Well, that's
anyway
their
we don't
opinion too. Yeah,
blah
yeah.
blah blah. And then
Okay, but there is a
and
bigger
then
opening for you here.
mm, yeah.
There's something for you to discover, and that is how do you become invisible
Mm-hmm.
as a person in a
Mm-hmm.
way that they can express what they're expressing,
Mm.
and they get back from you interest,
Mm-hmm.
not in the content of what they're saying, but that
Mm-hmm.
they need to say it, that they need to
Mm.
express something,
Mm-hmm.
and that you can be very interested in that and even
Mm.
ask questions that will facilitate more of that
Mm.
without getting involved in what it means about them and what it means about their idea of the other person.
Mm.
So it's a tricky one. It's a very tricky one.
Mm.
I did do a story on it, but I can't remember what it was
Mm.
called. Yeah. So essentially, it's like you want to become invisible as
Mm.
a person, and you want to become like a sponge to absorb what they're saying with enough feedback to them that they
Mm.
recognize that you're interested and not judgmental. You're
Mm.
non-judgmental.
Yeah.
Right. Now, that's a tricky one if you do feel judgmental about it. Because you
Mm.
say, well, you want them to like each other, you want them to get on, you want that to happen.
Uh,
But the reality
um,
is, that might or might not happen in the future. That's totally irrelevant in a way. But the reality is that they're using you.
mm.
It's a shitty thing to say it like that. They're not using you, but they are expressing to you something that is
Mm.
very valid for them, even if it's
Mm.
based on total bullshit stories. It doesn't matter, right? They feel it, and they feel it as very real. So somehow, the best way I can describe it is that the person Leonard needs to disappear,
Mm.
and you become like a sponge that absorbs what they're saying with enough feedback to let them know that you authenticate not the
Mm.
content of what they're saying, but the fact that they've got a need to say it.
Mm.
It's a tricky one. It is a tricky one, yeah, because you're the meat in the sandwich, but you're not. You only think you are. Right? And so you can see things like it gets very complicated. You can see things like maybe one of them wants you to be a messenger to take a message to the other one and
Mm.
things like that. Well, that's not your job. Your job is to be able to invite them to be expressive about what it is
Mm.
they're feeling. Yeah. And you're not going to fix it up. You're not going to correct it. You're not going to do
Mm.
anything like that. You're just going to validate that they have a need to say it.
Yeah, for example, my sister is in a relationship for many years now, and it's kind of actually, well, I don't know what's the gain for her, but she's mostly frustrated because she doesn't get what she wants from her partner. And I mean, I'm trying to be not judgmental. I mean, I'm not, I think before, like in the first 5 years of that relationship, I did say, like, yeah, why don't you break up if you feel so frustrated or something? Then I noticed, who am I to tell this to someone I can't know what the relationship is or what it
Mm,
is for her? And maybe she's complaining, but there are also beautiful aspects of the relationship. How can I know? And I don't do that anymore. So, um, mm, and then, for example, my mom tends to always repeat the same stories. It's really already like a record because it's even the same words that she's using,
mm,
the
mm,
same phrases. And then she always says, like, yeah, I'm so worried about your sister because she will never be happy with this guy and she will always, yeah, like follow
Yeah,
after him, like never, like chasing
yeah,
after
yeah.
him, never getting what she wants. And then recently the only thing that I did was to tell her, how do you know? I mean, that she will do that forever. I mean,
Yeah. But
I,
what she wants you to acknowledge is the
mm,
degree of worry that she's got.
mm,
And forget about the why. It doesn't matter
yeah,
why. She's just got her stories about why. But be interested in, what does it feel like to be worried?
mm, yeah,
That's the kind of validation that she wants. Once she gets that, she may not need to use
yeah.
those same words again.
I think that, I mean, it's also, yeah, like my mom is not doing very fine because her dog died. And she was very attached to that dog because she's living alone in that house. And she had dogs before, but that one was like very important to her because,
Mm,
and of course, the subject is the loneliness and
mm.
what to do or like how, yeah, I don't know how to
Yeah,
what's
tricky one.
what she wants to do or what is fulfilling for her or I don't know, like leading her everyday life.
Yeah,
And then what she does is to worry about her daughter, and that's clearly a diversion for me because then
yeah,
I sometimes tell her, why don't you worry about your daughter? She's a grown-up person, like you should maybe care about yourself more, like, but that's also, I mean,
yeah,
who am
yeah,
I to tell her that, like
yeah,
that's
yeah. So it's a bit of a
like
tricky one. Yeah,
mom,
because
yeah.
I understand you want it to be better. You want to fix the
Mm,
situation, and
mm,
you feel like you can see why
yeah.
she's so unhappy,
Mm,
and you can, but you can't do anything about it like that. Okay.
uh,
But
and
yeah,
then, yeah,
and she won't get another dog until she gets over the grief of losing this one.
mm, and then, yeah, because we are only my mom and my sister, because everybody else already passed away. My sister once said that at least for the birthdays we should meet the three of us. But actually, there is always, I mean, not always, but usually there is like always a fight between my mom and my sister. And then I agreed for my birthday to have them over to my place for like 3 or 4 days. And I know that it's going to happen, or not, I don't know, but I'm sure
Yeah, I get what
there's
you're
a
saying.
possibility of like a very uncomfortable situation, but somehow I agreed anyway because I mean I don't care about birthdays or anything. It's
Yeah, yeah.
then I thought like, yeah, okay, but I will be together with my family. Maybe it will be super uncomfortable,
Mm,
but it's also important for us to be
yeah,
together, whatever way. I don't know, but
yeah. But you can
I
see what you want is also what they want, right?
mm,
They recognize the value of family get together, even though
mm.
they probably imagine that they're going to end up fighting.
Yeah, but then it's like, okay, it's okay for me if they fight. It's just sometimes still a bit tricky for me, like to not react so
Mm.
much. And then
Well, don't
if it,
react.
yeah,
React and just be aware of
uh,
your reacting. If it
yeah.
comes up, it comes up. Yeah.
Or I mean, even if I shut up, this is also provoking, because then I noticed also that sometimes there is a story that then I have about myself, as if I were the one above everything and like like not taking part in that. That's not true and either.
Mm.
I mean,
Yeah. So the opportunity for you is to be authentic and to
hmm,
express that authenticity.
hmm,
Yeah. If you get pissed off with them fighting, there's nothing wrong with that.
hmm,
It may not fit your idea of who you would like to be,
hmm.
but there's value in recognizing that as well if it happens. You know,
Yeah, I think I noticed a bit. I mean, I'm already working on that. That sometimes I'm like a bit fright, afraid of my sister's reaction because she can be very,
be strong. Yeah.
yeah. And then sometimes I'm a bit avoidant or like trying to be like
Yeah. Yeah.
not
Yeah.
to say what I think. And yeah.
Yeah. It's a very interesting dynamic possibility for you. Yeah. But you
Yeah.
being authentic with yourself
Hmm.
gives them an opportunity to be authentic,
Hmm.
and maybe that's all they need. Maybe who
Hmm.
knows, like who knows
Hmm.
what could come out of it. Yeah.
Hmm.
But you're adventurous enough to invite them
Yeah,
to do
yeah.
that, to be
I
there and
think
to,
that's really the spirit that I do need, like to see it as an adventure.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And without doubt, it's a great opportunity for you to see any remnants of identification. That'll certainly pop up under the circumstances.
Yeah, I guess there is a lot, and I'm not, let's say, I'm not naive about this. I know that there are a lot of things that I'm not aware of that I'm doing or saying. I
Mm,
mean,
yeah. I'd love to be a fly on the wall for that couple of days. So that would be
yeah.
good. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. And when you can see stuff happen in yourself and spontaneously laugh about it, you know that
Hmm.
it's changing. That's
Hmm.
yeah. And it's kind of totally crazy for anybody to take life so seriously that they would fight.
Hmm.
Yet it happens. They do. Yeah. Play with it. Set some rules when they come and see how they go with those rules. Maybe they'll ignore them, maybe they won't. You make a game of it. So if you want to
Hmm.
fight with each other,
Hmm.
do it via writing. You write what you want to say to the other one and give it to them on a piece of paper, and both of them
Hmm.
do. That's a possibility. Maybe they won't go along with it, but maybe they will. And
Hmm.
so that changes things. Make a game
Hmm.
out. Yeah.
Or maybe I should say you are allowed to have a fight, but
Yes.
only in the bathroom.
Yeah. Yeah. That would be a good one. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Or if you really want to shout, shout into a pillow.
Yeah.
Scream as loud as you can into a pillow. Yeah.
Mm.
And you can tell them, you can be really upfront and tell them, I expect you two to start fighting, and I'm using this as an opportunity to discover what reactions I have about it. So please have a good fight and we'll see what
Mm.
happens.
I think that would trigger them a lot.
Who knows? Yes.
Mm.
And maybe if you give them permission to do it, they won't do it in the same way that they used to.
Mm.
I don't know. Who knows? Yeah. Mm.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really control that, but sometimes I think I mean, there is this technique of mirroring, right? That, for example, you say something and then the other one repeats what he heard, you know? Like,
Yes.
and to check if it was really understood in the way the person wanted to share that.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. That's good. Yeah, and that's a good thing to do. It's a bit tricky if you're doing it as a technique. It's a bit
Yeah,
transparent. But if you
yeah.
can get good at doing it so that
But
it
if
it doesn't
if
feel
two people
condescending.
if two people are freaking out totally, then it's a bit difficult to
Mm,
yeah, to implement that.
yeah. Or you can say, well, if you want to have a fight, you've got to do it through me. So you tell me what you want me to tell her, and you do the
Hmm.
same. You tell me what you want me to tell you. And when she tells you what you want to tell her, you say,
Hmm.
Is this right? Am I understanding it right? That you want me to tell her dot 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 dot?" And by the time you make her clarify, all the heat goes out of it.
Hmm.
That's a possibility again. Yeah. When's this likely to happen? When's your birthday?
19th of April.
Oh, okay, so it's a couple of
But
weeks away. Yeah.
one thing is also that mm, yeah, there is like something a bit asymmetrical, let's say, in the constellation because my sister and my mom don't have a good. I mean, I wouldn't say that they don't have a good relation. It has become way better than before because, for example, my sister now would also talk to my mom about all of her emotional stuff when she feels the need to do it, and she knows that she can do that, and I find that very beautiful, but there are still like those old mechanisms going on.
Mm.
And it also has to do with, um, yeah, my mom and me, we have a more direct contact because we communicate quicker. And my sister is actually rather like my father was, like a bit more introverted and not so open
Mm.
in
Mm.
communicating her thoughts and feelings. And since my father is not there anymore, there is like kind of a, yeah, there are two people who communicate in a different way than the other one, the third person.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
so
So, mm.
also, even, I mean, I noticed that when my sister was a child, that was already an issue. And she, I don't know, for her, it's a bit more like I am number two and my brother is number one. And that's actually not true. I mean, because my mom loves us both the same
Yeah, yeah,
way. But on the other hand, then my mom, when she talks to me, she always returns to this narrative that, yeah, I mean, you and me, we can talk about everything, but with your sister, it's so difficult. And then I already told my mom, please don't do that because you are like,
setting it up. Yeah.
it's kind of setting up this alliance between you and me against her, and it feels like super shitty for me. And
Mm.
then there was like a long time of mistrust of my sister towards me
Yeah.
until I spoke about her with that, and then now we're having like the best relationship ever, my sister and me, actually. Um, so yeah, the thing is that I don't want to reinforce this. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just what comes to mind here is that
Mm.
it's much better to have that stuff out in the open than have it implicit.
Yeah. Mm.
So if you feel concern about that, mention it.
Mm.
And you're going to mention it in one way to your mother and in a different way to your sister. But, be authentic.
Mm.
It's
Yeah,
important.
that's maybe also the thing that there is not only. not the communication between the two parts that have a problem with each other, but the three of us,
Mm.
maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, I didn't think about that before. So that's like, yeah, a good point. Maybe it's an opportunity to just put it on the table
Yeah.
also. Yeah.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if the whole dynamic changes as a result of that get together.
Hmm.
Mm. Mm. It will be interesting.
Hmm. Yeah.
Mm.
Maybe I'll get back to you on that.
Sure. Yeah, good. I'll be interested. Mm.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Leonard. Thank you. It's good. What's alive for you at the moment, Tammy?
Stevens.
Hi.
Um, what's alive is it's been good. I've been able to, or it has happened that um was able to be more at peace with things, um, not fight things. I also had some family dynamics. Lennart talking about it reminded me of mine. Let's say I was over my sister yesterday and she would scream at my nephew or put him in his room, not in the sweetest way, but a little bit aggressively. So in the past, I would have thought, how could I save him or how can I change their dynamic or like butter her up so she doesn't hurt him. Like, I don't
Yeah.
get involved. I let him deal with her and her deal with him, and I'm just there before and after. I mean, things still do get to me a bit. In other words, I stayed a couple hours to help out with the kids, and there's never, I mean, this isn't really so much, but it does still get me that, there's never any acknowledgement that I was there, that I helped out, that I was with all three kids while she ate dinner, cleaned up, and rested. Like, I'll leave and she'll barely look up from her phone, and there's never a thank you or anything. But those are things that, you know, get me a little bit, but mostly I'm okay with it. Like, I see how they are and I'm okay. So I would say I'm much better at regulating myself in those situations, especially with the belief that I don't need to save anything or whatever. Like,
Mm.
I get out of those stories of this is going to ruin his life. What is wrong with me? Why aren't I figuring this out? When I let that go and just let it play out, um, there is twinges in my heart, but I don't, follow it
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
to huge turmoil. Um, but what's more alive is, I think, just the usual stuff of, well, things here are a bit different for various reasons, and there's not usual things happening. So a lot of like work is canceled. There's a lot of stuff like that in the next few weeks and for the last few weeks. And I can't like take my nephew out for walks far from home. I can't walk myself. So a lot of things are different. So that causes stress. I can't get out in nature as much or even walk far. There's a lot of indecision. And I guess the two things that are alive that are not that different from usual, but one is just the constant indecision and rumination about every moment of how to spend my time. That's in the small. And in the big is just like, what am I doing with my life? Like, just my priorities, my values, where I want to put my time and attention. Um, and some work stuff has died down, some other stuff. Whoa, sorry. Um, 1 second. Yeah, so it's just I guess another variety of that thing between, I guess, navigating between what is my way forward, like navigating between, do I try and go into more regulation, more relaxation, but then on the other hand, what about taking action? So there's stuff in general with my inflammation of my body and other symptoms, which a lot of the symptoms, there's like internal symptoms and external, which is helpful because like the skin stuff, I could tell if it's like getting worse or clearing up. That's also a sign. There's all kinds
So,
of signs. And then there's stuff with my eyes now, and the doctor prescribed some drops, but because they have preservatives in them, I don't want to use them because the preservative I think is making my eyes red. So I just went on a 3-month quest to get the HMO to approve it without preservatives, and they just told me no. And he said, well, maybe try, these natural things where calm the eyes, speak to the eyes, all this kind of alternative stuff. Part of it is physical exercises, part of it is like therapy, like speaking to the eyes. I don't know. All these things are like, it's like, what's a waste of time and what's worth investing my time into? And then I went to like an NLP webinar last night and I wrote in the chat, like, what about inflammatory bowel? Like, can this help that? And one guy answered me and said, I know someone who grew herself a new rectum. I'm like, okay. And he sent us to this YouTube video. Everyone was like, oh, thank you. Anyway, and it was on this Joe Dispenza thing. But it's like 1 in a million who will actually have these things where they can stand up on that stage and say, well, this was actually regrown or
mm,
healed or whatever. You know what I mean? I don't know. In terms of work, in terms of my body, in terms of all these things, it's just like, where do I put my. So that's kind of what's alive in me of how do I spend my time on the macro and micro, and what is my path forward and where to put my attention. So that's not something really maybe you can answer, but that's what's alive when you ask. I mean, that's what's.
yeah, I get that. Yeah. And as you were telling me that, a couple of times you paused. There was a distinct silence there. What was going on for you when that happened?
um Two things. One, something frightening happened, so I just needed to pause here and move somewhere else. And second, I think just I'm working on regulation. In other words, I've been very happy that a lot of time, like all these things, like with my sister, whatever, I'm like, and again, I'm sure this is just like a 1 or 2 day miracle, but like I've been really seeing the value of not getting carried away in the story, even when it seems important, like saving my nephew's life and future by getting involved in saving his whole family dynamic, um, or with other things of danger. I did get caught up. There were some quite heavy things going on, and people that were going to be in whatever. It doesn't matter the details, but and then that was compounded by all kinds of. In other words, I still do get, but but the times that I can stay calm despite
Hmm.
stuff, it's just I'm so grateful in those moments. It's like wow. So
Yeah,
I just wanted to tell you that. But yeah.
yeah, good, good, good. So am I right in saying there's two things you're grateful of? One is that you're having that moment, and the other one is that because of that, you're not spiraling off into something else unpleasant. Would it be accurate to say that both of those are alive for you?
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, wow. It's yeah, because my physiology and thoughts have just been
Yeah,
in almost complete control for so long, and it doesn't seem like there's anything like I've been trying my absolute best for many years to um
yeah.
to not have that happen. So it's
And
when those moments of that, it's yeah.
can you get also that when that happens for you, that there's also not the bodily reaction, there's not the stress hormones produced at the same level as they used to be, and so on. So it becomes there's a physical component to it as well.
Absolutely. It's I would say 90%. I mean, not 90%, but the physicals, absolutely. It's the spiraling. A lot of it is a physical sense.
Mm.
I mean, I know the story and the beliefs are driving it, but it's definitely a physical
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
craziness. Yeah.
So can you get also, now this is the really big one. Can you get that conditions, circumstances that have appeared have led to this happening? It didn't happen primarily. We're looking at a primary reason. It didn't happen because you intended it and took control and got charged up and did it. It happened for a whole lot of really complex reasons, but it's much more accurate to say that it happened than to say you did it.
So, three things there. One is my first reaction to that was absolutely, because I remember earlier on when things would change a little bit and someone would say, "Oh, look, you're doing this and that." And I'd be very annoyed because I'd be like, "I'm trying my whole life. It's you're insinuating that, oh, now I'm trying and now it's working." It's like, no, I've been trying my whole life. It's just like a gift or a miracle that today it's like this, but I'm always trying my best. So it would annoy me as to insinuate as if I've been lazy till now or something or wasn't trying. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
but the other thing is it's a little bit scary because and also I'm not sure. It's like it's kind of like now it's working. Like I'll feel a subtle energy of tension rising up. I notice it and I'm if I'm able to, not all the days, but if I can and remind myself of something or snap or something and it'll release. And again, I always want that to happen, but usually it doesn't. And yet I am doing something. So that's a second thing. And the third thing is that when you say there's nothing that I didn't quite, it's a little scary to say I didn't do anything because then that just puts me at the mercy of the universe. And if the universe wants to make me dysregulated, it will. And if it wants to make me at peace, it will. And that's really annoying. And it's like some people get to be like, you know,
yeah,
princes of peace and wealth and joy. And some people don't. Like, I don't know. It's annoying to think
yeah,
that way,
yeah,
but maybe.
yeah. Okay, so what about a story that says the universe loves you and the universe will look after you and do the very its very best to do the right thing by you? Is that a good story? I like it.
It is. And then you have to say, what about suffering? And you could say, well, it's to learn from it and make you who you are. I mean, that's all that story, right?
Hmm. And you can it's a tricky one, that one, because you can go, well, another story is that suffering is unnecessary, but then that kind of implies that you can choose to not have it, and that's not true. Now another thing you said that I really want to jump on here, that you said we were talking like you didn't have anything to do with it. That's not true. You did have something to do with it, right? But it wasn't entirely your doing. What you brought to the table were some of the conditions involved. Now, you may have also brought a whole lot of conditions that were going to get in the road, but essentially there were enough of the right conditions for what happened to happen. And some of those you did bring to the table, and a whole lot of them were outside of your direct control, but they're still there. So what we can say is that there were an infinite number of conditions involved, and some of those were ones that you brought to the table, even though you might not have done it intentionally. You might not have known that they were appropriate. but
That
nevertheless, you
feels
bring some to the table. Yes.
that feels true to me because it seems I'm always trying, and that's one of the components. Now, 90% of the time I've been failing, but it's part of it, the fact that
Yeah.
I'm trying. I don't know.
Yeah. And what I've been trying to tell you for ages, that's just something for you to play with, is that trying is has a lot more of the components that we don't want than ones that we do want. Now, some of them are ones that we do want, but a whole lot of them get in the road of what we were after. So,
Yeah, and that's been helpful. You've been saying that because I think that's part of what I was remembering this past week. In other words, it was like, oh no, what should I do? And then it's like, well, Vince says no. And then that would release some of the, built up things that was going to start to build up even more. So,
mm, yeah. So a lot of this is like we're starting to see, how can I put it? Well, I don't want to I don't want to include any morality or any judgment here, but what I want to say is going to sound a bit like that, but it's not what I'm meaning, and that is that we're starting to see a bit more uh, uh, accuracy about what's involved in this kind of stuff. So some of the stories that you've had about all of the effort that you're putting into it, all of the intensity that you bring to it, all the charge that you build up, having the biggest effect. That story is starting to take on a different hue to you, is it not?
I would say so. There's still a holding out on the fact that being in a very worked up state or very intense or very sympathetic, whatever you want to call it, does can create some things that I don't think other states can create.
Well, that's
But
yeah, wouldn't argue with that one. Yeah.
I no longer choose to be there because I've created enough in my life through that state that I know that the real wealth that I'm seeking, in other words, the real accomplishment or achievement or thing, in other words, I think it's more about choosing peace over those things. And
Mm.
that is scary because, can you achieve, will I be able to change my life and make relationships and make more money and work? In other words, will I be able to have success and have what I need in life without that? But I would like to go in the way of being a sane, calm person while I achieve those things, and hopefully it's possible without being crazy. So,
Yeah, all right. So let me reiterate something I have said before, and that is that you can be a passionate, calm, sane person. There's no contradiction in that. Uh,
mm,
But when you're passionate, it comes from a different place when you're a calm, sane person than it used to come from. So it's not a desperation kind of thing. It's not coming with the with the purpose of achievement as such. It will just be something that's there because that's your nature.
mhm,
And I know about that. I'm a bit like that myself.
mhm,
And others will mistake that passion for all sorts of things, but that's just they're just talking about themselves with that. But you'll know where it's coming from. And it won't come
mhm,
with a desperation for achievement. It'll come because that's your nature. That's your personality. So
mm.
you'll always be that way. But it will come from a different place.
And what about in terms of, I don't know, I guess maybe it's just a tired period right now, but there's a lot going on, so it makes sense. I've just been feeling a bit just heavy and tired, and I guess sleep is disrupted. There's all kinds of things, but um, I don't know. I mean, I guess I don't know if I can really ask you this, but what do I do about, in other words, like my eyes or my body? Like I'm very, um, I spoke to you about this that I'm afraid that, my body's definitely, I've been in a flare since June, and then in January with the colder weather, I started getting better and things are healing. And I was just on the verge of considering medication, and I went to the doctor and he recommended it. And then I was like, no, 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 I know I can get over this hump. And I've kind of put as a top priority of, I think that's one of the conditions that's allowing, a little bit more peace, is that I realize the necessity of it. Like I have to, it's this or bust. In other words, it's this or I go on the medication and getting sicker kind of train. I don't know. I feel this like, um, well, desperation or this urgency about like summer's coming again and the heat
Yep.
and stuff
Yeah.
and worrying about flaring up. And and then about the eyes and the drops not working out. So now it's like, do I do this natural stuff and do I put into learning about it and doing it, or is that really not going to bring me results? I've done it for a few weeks now with some free Zooms online, and I went to the doctor and he goes, no, your prescription is actually worse. I'm like, oh, but you told me to relax, so it's not working. He goes, no, you need to relax even more. So I don't know, if these things can actually make changes in the three or four things in my eyes, for the
Yeah, it's
better.
very,
It's just like, where do I put my efforts with regard to the health of the body and the eyes? And just how do I move forward in terms of, right now, there's very low motivation in terms of finding more work or finding more friends or anything like that. Do I just go with that, or do I try and go deep into regulating myself even more, or meditation and imagining things getting better? I just don't know where to take my efforts, like what will actually bring fruit rather than a waste of time and weird states or meditations or stuff.
yeah, it's a tricky one, isn't it? My inclination is to say that this question, where do I put my focus? What do I do? In itself is an opportunity. And my way of looking at that would be to use this as a way of having the universe make decisions for me. Now we're not talking about black and white. We're not talking about anything absolute. We're talking about inclinations and suggestions, right? So when would see, I don't like to use ointment all the time. If I've got an itch, I'll sometimes use ointment. If it looks like it's going to be a flare up of dermatitis, then I'll use ointment. But if it's not feel, it's got a certain feel for me because I'm sensitive to the kind of feel. I know, for example, that when I'm in the shower, the hot water on something will have a certain feel about it if it's a dermatitis kind of itch. Or is it an itch just because I've been bitten around the ankles by sandflies, which happens here a bit? Um, so what I'm saying is it's be flexible about what what are the possibilities. The same with the eye ointment. I myself wouldn't be too concerned about the fact that there's preservatives in the eye drops if you're not having a reaction to that. But you said they're making your eyes bloodshot. Well, there's nothing wrong with bloodshot except maybe the way it looks. But is it indicating to you that there's something wrong with it? I mean, don't be a purist, is what I'm saying. Right? So you
Mm-hmm.
don't have to go 100% natural. You might use a mixture of both. You might use one temporarily, right? So you might, if you're having a flare up of something, then you might use medication just to dampen the flare and then go back to the natural stuff, right? So you might try meditating and focusing and using imagery as a way of helping something. But at the same time, you can also be using more conventional ways of doing it. So it's very much
Yeah,
a case
because
of experimenting.
Yeah, because how do you do that, Vince? In other words, like you had that thing that you healed by all that stuff, over 2 months, you healed some of your stuff. But now when you have a thing, you'll put a cream rather than meditating it away for 2 months. So it's like, so I guess you're saying that's exactly what you're saying. Like some of the things you'll meditate away and some of the things you just live with and they're not meditatable or
Well, yeah. So no, it's really a case of, see, the way you presented that is like I do one or the other. I don't. They're a mixture of things, right?
mm-hmm,
So I don't do formal meditation to do anything anymore because I also recognize that these things can change really quickly for me. So I can have something that looks like a flare up today, and in the morning it's not there. Right?
mm-hmm,
It can be like that, you know. Um, like as an old man, I get out of bed of a morning, and if my prostrate's swollen, I have trouble pissing. It's going to dribble out. That's it. But I live with that until the pressure's off my bladder, and then I'll go and do something else, and 10 minutes later I'll come in and I'll have a full flow. So if I believe the traditional medicine, I've got an enlarged prostate, and it's going to be a problem. Well, what I've noticed is sometimes frequently first thing in the morning, it's enlarged, but when I'm up for an hour, it's gone again. It's okay. So, I don't necessarily believe stories like it's black and white. It is this or it is
mm-hmm,
that. I notice what goes on for this body. And
mm-hmm,
and I also notice, and this is a big one, I notice that things change amazingly quickly.
mm-hmm. So about my fear that like I'm gonna flare up again when the heat starts and the air gets not clean because there's no rain, and I'll be in a flare again from June to January. It's like, or
Yeah.
about my eyes getting worse. Like,
Yeah.
do I just try
I
and not
wouldn't believe
believe
any of
it? Do I
those
try
stories.
and
They may be true, they may not be true, but I wouldn't believe them because they're going to get in the road of what's going on for you now.
mm-hmm.
So now is the
But
only
not
time to be interested in not what's going to happen when the weather warms up or in the future. Just now.
mm-hmm,
And so if you take the cue from your body, what is it? So if your eyes are feeling inflamed, you're going to do something now. That
mm-hmm,
means most likely use the eye drops. And then, but that doesn't mean you've got to use the eye drops like an antibiotic. You've got to use it till the bottle's empty. You might use it for 3 days and then find that things are okay, so you stop using it. And if you've stopped prematurely, it'll come back. So then you'll use it again a bit longer this time. But if it doesn't come back, then you go, that was good. That took care of that flare up. And then from now on, I'll just focus on being relaxed so that it doesn't happen again.
yeah, with the eyes, it's more of like trying to prevent the vision getting worse or try and improve the vision. It's more about longer term right now. But and that's why I don't know if to do these courses and stuff. But yeah, and also the body, it's been a bit more pain and stuff. So I've had to take painkillers some days just
Yeah,
because I know otherwise I'll be sitting on the couch crying for 6 hours and I don't want to waste the day.
that's right. Yeah.
Um,
So that seems appropriate to me, but it
but
doesn't
do I
mean
need
that.
to be doing more? Like I want to get to total calm so that I prevent, you know what I mean? To see how
Yeah.
far I can take the eyes and the body. If I really am calm, like I'm a Zen Buddha every minute. Like,
Yeah. Well, don't go for absolutes at the moment. Just do the best you can right now, and be and watch the stories that predict things. You don't know what's
mm-hmm,
going to happen, and those stories can frequently be self-fulfilling prophecies. So that's a big one too.
mm-hmm.
Uh, but I don't want to put too much emphasis on it at the moment. But you'll get better and better at allowing circumstances to make decisions for you. Right? So if things are happening, you respond to those things.
Mm-hmm.
And but then if they are actually happening, not responding to stories about what might happen.
So like not feeling a need to figure out my life or my career or relationships or whatever, just like be
Uh,
attuned to what the day shows me kind of thing.
Yep, yep, yep. Your life will figure itself out. I mean, it always has, even though you felt like it hasn't been. You felt like you've had to do it. But your life will definitely figure itself out.
But will it do it good if I don't get involved?
Well, that's the best opportunity for it to do it well is if you don't get involved and interfere with it. Yeah.
Hmm.
Again, it's not like you go completely that way where life makes decisions. Life just offers you possibilities,
Hmm.
and you just get better and better at reading those possibilities. There's no black or white. We tend to think that there is a binary choice all the time, and there's not.
But can you make the wrong choice or the bad choice? And what part does like intention play and stuff?
Well, of course you can make the wrong choice. But you can only make the only choice. And if it turns out to be wrong, that's just a story we overlay afterwards. But you'll learn from that if that happens. As
Yeah.
long as you're not so wrapped up in being a failure that you miss the learning opportunity in it. So, yes, nobody's saying that it's 100% guaranteed that everything's going to be wonderful. But if it's not wonderful, that's probably pretty wonderful too, because it's a learning opportunity. So as you get more sensitive to the cues, it stops being a, a heavy duty task to make the right decision. If you make the wrong decision, that also just happens. But it's not a big deal. It's not a failure on your part. It was just circumstances that led to that decision. And as a result of that, you'll refine it for next time.
You're not telling me to go into deep, heavy meditation for hours a day for the body or for the eyes or for my state or
No,
whatever.
no, but I'm telling you, if you're inclined to meditate, then meditate. If you're inclined to not meditate, then don't meditate.
Hmm. It's just, is there some big effort I need to be making that I should psych myself up for, like that I'll be missing out or my life will go wrong if I
Yeah.
don't make tremendous efforts?
Yeah, there is a really big effort that you can psych yourself up for, and that is to not psych yourself up and put effort into things. That's going to take a lot of effort, though, isn't it?
Yes, but I'm trying.
Yes, and you're trying, and that's it. You're trying, right? So there is an intention, and then there is either move in the direction of fulfilling that intention or not. Right? So you're trying. Great. That's it. Nothing more. There's no failure or success. There's just trying.
Yeah.
And what's happening, what I see is happening, or what I hear is happening, the stories that I've developed as a result of what I hear, is that everything's working rather beautifully.
Hmm.
I like what I'm hearing, Tammy.
Okay, that's good. If you're happy, I'm happy.
Well, I'm happy that you're happy that I'm happy.
All right, perfect. I hope it'll work. I hope I won't get caught up into craziness again, but if I do,
Yeah,
I do, right? So,
yeah, exactly. If you do, you do. That's exactly right. But when you do, you'll realize you are, and that will offer an opportunity.
yeah.
So of course, there's nothing binary again. That's what it is there is a movement in a direction, and that's great. That's exactly right. And I like the direction that it's moving in. And what you'll find is it's not a linear thing either. It's not a linear path because every time you make a discovery, it will affect other things. And so you know it'll go faster and slower, and whatever. And it sounds to me like it's happening rather well. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for saying that because that's one of the things that holds me back when I have any kind of improvement for a little bit and then it gets worse. I feel awful. Like, so
Yeah.
that intensity is, yeah.
You might have heard me say this one before too, but I'll say it again anyway. And I'm quite happy to do that. There's no problems. I don't ever feel like I'm actually repeating myself. But yeah, when things turn up that you might describe as a falling back or a failure or something like that, it's never actually that. You can't unsee what you see. You can't undo what's happened. What happens is that the better you get, the more you open yourself up for more stuff to come through, to come up and
Mhm.
be explored. So really, it's not a falling back or a failure. It's a move forward and just in cleaning up, if you like. So this idea that we can know stuff, but our nervous system doesn't necessarily know it yet. It takes a bit of catching up. And that's
Mhm.
a very real thing that happens. We can see very clearly about something, and yet we'll have an experience that seems to contradict it. And what it is the nervous system just expressing a belief that hasn't been dissolved yet. So
Mm.
you don't see it as a failure, you see it as a new opportunity. And that's the way it works. And
Mhm.
those things they'll thin out. They'll get less and less over time. You'll get better and better. One day you'll look back at the way you used to be and you'll laugh. Believe me, that's that's I do, and
Mm.
others have. So I've no reason to think that you won't. I think you will. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Even if I never wake up, Vince,
Even
I'll
if
still
you
be
never
able to
wake up,
laugh.
and that's the thing too. Is it an all or nothing thing to wake up? I don't think so. Right?
Mm.
If it is the case, well, I'm not awake yet. I think what happens is that we progress in that direction and we get to a point where we feel pretty good about what's going on and we appreciate the opportunities as they turn up, but it continues to happen.
Yeah,
So, there is no finish line. There is no point where you say, now I've got it. You'll always say there's more.
that's weird
Hmm. And I know it's a different story to what a lot of people say, but it's my experience I'm talking about.
that there's always more things to discover and let go of.
Yeah, yeah. And one way to put it, a story about it, a concept of that is that there are beliefs that remain dormant, right? So they're only potential until they
Mm.
get triggered.
Mm-hmm.
They can sit there dormant for years. And then
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden circumstances will trigger them. And then you go, oh, beauty, there's an opportunity. And then
Mm-hmm.
because you're looking at it like that, you're seeing it happen. There's an objective noticing of it, and that immediately dissolves it.
Nice.
And sometimes things take many, many views to dissolve. They're so deeply buried that there's repetitions of it.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that.
Yeah, yeah, me too. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I can say is I really, really would have appreciated somebody like me to talk to when I was going through it. It would have made the world of difference, I reckon. So, that's one of the reasons why I'm so pleased that I'm able to be here for you.
Yeah, well, I am even more pleased. So I just really, truly appreciate you from the bottom of my heart and not express it enough. So thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome, Tammy, and thank you for being there. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to go back and watch some television with my wife now.
Have fun.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks
Uh,
so much, Vince.
see you later. See you, Jack.